Hello, welcome to episode 4. I've been assured it's episode 4 of the Sockycast.
Welcome to episode 4. I've been assured
It's me, Dudeakoff. Oh my god, it's reverbing. I fucked up. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at that. Oh my god, it's reverbing. I fucked up. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at that.
It's all downhill from here.
It's because I opened up the stream to check the title. It's all Socky's fault. My bad, everyone. It's me.
Not my fault.
Dudeakoff. Here's Socky again, as per usual. He is here. And we've got two guests with us today. First of all, if you like Eustace, watch this Sockycast. Legit one of the most impressive podcast guests I've ever seen of someone piloting that character. We've got Mirri. How are you doing today?
Yo, that's me. I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk about 4 sentences and then give up.
Don't worry. I'll like ask you questions, force you to speak more than you want to. Don't worry about that. Second guest, non-EU. We've got the guy who qualified for our Qual Tour on pre-patch Matera when the arrows were like a whole 2 frames slower. And he's like decent at BlazBlue or something. I don't know. It's Monarch. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm just okay. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for turning up early in the day to appear on this Sockycast. Appreciate it. But yeah, so Socky has the list of topics that he wants to run down. I've kind of just like winged it in regards to what we're doing on this podcast, so I'll hand it over to him if he would like to take over.
You would be surprised to hear this, or maybe not surprised, but I'm also gonna wing it. I did write some topics, obviously, because, you know, there's a lot to talk about, and I also don't want the stream to be 4 hours long again, but who knows what's gonna happen. Talking about zoners, you know, it's definitely I feel like even back in base game, people were, you know, Matera was kind of like a you know, interesting topic point for a lot of people because they were like struggling with you know, like we've got delay-based netcode trying to anti this Harp champion, and now in Rising there's a lot to be talking about zoners, considering the current meta, I guess, for the game, but also like just all the mechanics. You know, there's like so many system mechanics and stuff that both benefits zoners and also hurts the ability to zone, that it's become quite the common topic everywhere. I mean, I know in the EU Discord at least, because we can't go a day without talking about Matera. I mean, you know this as much as I do.
I'm just not good. I just have that influence on people, you know?
Oh, okay, sure. It's definitely you and not Bonsai or Mr. Farn ranked. Or maybe winning every Parrots loss.
Yeah,
I actually wanted to ask you. Yeah, I wanted to ask you like straight up, like, do you consider Eustace a zoner?
That's one of the things that's in the back of my head as well with having you on the podcast.
Are we not considering Eustace a zoner?
I mean, the way I play him, I consider him a zoner. But like, I've seen a lot of people say he's not a zoner.
Huh?
It's more like the zoning sets up the ability to like apply pressure with the grenades and that kind of thing. But again, like a lot of the stuff that he's doing is outside of like poke ranges and shooting / throwing grenades in order to actually do stuff. So I would consider him a zoner still. But obviously when you're in the corner and just like taking pressure forever, it doesn't feel like that. But you can say the same for Matera, I guess, as well.
Yeah, it's the same for Matera. Like you're not when you're a zoner, you're just not always shooting projectiles and not doing anything else. Like that's
not like a Rising thing where it's like the zoning sets up the offense. You can't just like strictly zone.
Yeah,
you have to like change it up a lot.
I mean, that's Rising, right? That's like it's kind of baked into the game. Every zoner is like a hybrid between like zoning / set play / I don't know, good pressure, like BC save sort of pressure that kind of goes on forever. It's kind of what the game does, honestly. I mean, yeah, before we go into the nitty-gritty, I think it might be not a bad idea to talk a little bit about the guests, or introduce them a little bit for those who are still unaware. Who's here with us, Mirri and Monarch. Let's talk a little bit. I guess whoever wants to start, just start screaming. Tell us a little bit about the character you play, why you play them.
That's a question as well. You went into it just as I said that, but yeah, fair enough.
We're just gonna sit in silence.
Yeah,
No
go
one's
for it,
talking.
Mirri.
Yeah,
Mirri.
no one.
I'm gonna force
Mirri.
Mirri to go first. Go for it.
I'll go
Yeah.
first. I mean, I played a lot of characters in base game. Like I started with Zeta, right? But I didn't really like want to play Zeta. She was just the most fun I had. And then just hopped around characters until Eustace dropped. I didn't pick him up like immediately, but I picked him up after a while, since he's the closest to Venom in Exert, even though he's like significantly worse and has. I mean, compared to Venom, he's significantly worse. But he has some similar tools and strengths that I like about Venom, which is like, risk-free pressure, like the broken anti-air, and like fun tools to play around with so I don't get bored immediately.
The presence of a ball,
The presence of a ball, obviously, yeah.
the biggest one. Is there anything else you, Socky, wanted to, in addition to that? I don't know, if you wanted to go into like recent tournament or whatever, or how
Obviously,
you
you
feel about the
mentioned-
character.
You mentioned Exert, but like, how long have you been playing fighting games? I guess like, assuming you've been playing since before Exert, or did you start with that?
I mean, depends on how you wanna like categorize starting. Like, I did play at like when I was 10 or 11, like some sick in-house tournaments in like Budokai or Naruto Ultimate Ninja, but I don't think that really counts, right?
Tell us the first day you started zoning.
I don't know, man. Well, I started
was the
taking
first
it
hit?
more seriously with like Street Fighter 4, which is like now there's like everyone calls you a Stripe player, but back then everyone called you a filthy 09er. I don't know if people know that.
Yeah, more inventive names back then, such as
Yeah,
the game
yeah.
that you started playing as opposed to just the game that you're playing.
But I didn't have a good mindset when I started playing. Like I only just wanted to do a sick jump in and do a Sakonoko combo and hope it works. Like I played like most games that came out after that, like Blaze Blue, KOF. I tried Marvel a bit. It's not for me, but it's like fun. Like I started taking fighting games more seriously when Exert dropped.
Like even to this day, you tried pretty much every fighting game that drops on the market, right, for at least like a month.
Yeah, I think like the first month or the first 2 months is super fun in every fighting game. It's like figuring shit out before it's turbo broken.
For everybody starts picking Hokutomaru.
I mean, that was like day 2.
To be fair, there's a lot of money on the line. You gotta go log in early, can't have fun. But yeah. How about you, Monarch? Tell us a little bit about you. I mean, I feel like most people know you from BlazBlue. If they don't know you from Granblue, obviously. But yeah, tell us a little bit about it.
No, yeah. I started in vanilla. I was heavy on base game for that first 6-month period, but back then I played Lancelot, mostly for aesthetic as opposed to like gameplay reasons. What it comes down to is that I started playing Rushdown in BlazBlue. I started with Tsubaki, and it's like from there I like branched out, picked different characters, just like feeling out the cast. But eventually I settled on like Nu and Lambda. And I think the idea is that like zoning to me as a concept is just so cool because like a lot of it is just reading the opponent and being rewarded for being right. That kind of thing to me is just like super satisfying, and Matera is no exception.
Yeah, like it's funny. We've got like Desolate in chat right now, and we had reviewed a set with him a while back, and I remember, like the biggest. It's kind of sounds like branching off a little bit, but like the big criticism I gave him was that he wasn't zoning enough, right? And I was like wondering why he wasn't even playing Matera in the first place if he's playing so aggressive on her. And it's like it's the points you mentioned pretty much. What he liked about the character so much, right? That she gets to like do so many things, right? And yeah, that she has a bow, like you say, good chat. But it's like that's what, like when you watch him play, that's what he focused on a lot, right? It's like the pressure, the set play, and getting to do all these things, right? It's like can be very high APM gaming. There's definitely like slower Materas as well that tend to be a bit more, I guess, methodical, or like, shift the risk reward in their favor. But then there's also, like Bonsai is a good example, or Desolate. They play a little bit more aggressive. But it feels like, they're gonna like do all the stuff that is very strong, and they will make you have to deal with that. Whether that is by zoning or, putting on the pressure. Since she does have pretty good pressure as well. Like when she gets things going, and with meter.
No, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the beauty of it, is like being able to express how you zone in the way that you want to. So you can like be projectile centric, or you can rush down, ideally the best kind of zoners are the ones where you can have that freedom, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I feel like even back in base game, people just enjoyed the character a lot. Like you saw, even though she was like regarded, like at least I know by the end of it, or like, even like throughout the game, she wasn't necessarily considered particularly strong. I know Japan was always like very down on her, but there was still like so many people playing her, right? Like she was still like a very popular character, or like at least with character specialists who've been on her for like such a long time. And reasons for that often was that she got to play so much more in a game that can be a little straightforward, right? Especially if you're playing like a Shoto, right? In this, at this game there's a little more going on, right, with ultimate skills and everything. But in base game, you've got like like no double jumps, no air dashes, ground-based footsies, and then this character pulls up with like her hops and everything. I feel I'll definitely be drawn to all the tools that she has.
Yeah, she was pretty good at the end of base game. Like, it's like two ends of the base game where like Mateo was like more like meta relevant. Was like at the beginning when Hop was significantly better. There was a lot more like go in, keep going in, go in at all time Mateos, which might not be necessarily the most optimal way to play at that point, but that was definitely happening. And then at the end where you just had like the ability to hit confirm off anything with Rush, and just how expansive a toolkit was. I still miss turning around in the air to this day.
It looked so fun back then. I wish I appreciated how unique her design was when I was like actively grinding vanilla. Unfortunately, I only tagged in to vanilla Matera after playing the Rising beta, so it's kind of weird to go backwards like that.
Yeah.
But
Which Rising beta, though? Hopefully not the first one. That was awful.
it was the first one, yes.
Oh my god.
Was seeing the light. He was like, wait a minute. Go back. I gotta play Matera in base game.
Got it in while he still can.
But yeah, talked a little bit about the characters. Obviously, how long have you been playing fighting? Because obviously we've talked about BlazBlue, Monarch, but play much before?
Or? Yeah, about all my life, really. Not like competitively, but I grew up with plenty. Tekken 3, Soul Calibur 4. Anything relevant I probably played. I just wasn't like good at it, I guess. But I started with BlazBlue and continued with Extend, and then I got competitive in Chrono Phantasma. And I kind of just jumped off from there. I was saying I picked up base game vanilla when that came out, but then after I dropped that, because, no rollback,
Yeah.
I spent a few years learning multi-blood current code. That was pretty fun. But now I'm back on Rising, mostly.
Yeah. I do remember, like, you came out for some events, even vanilla. That was probably mostly for, like, what's it called, for BlazBlue, but you did also, like, end up entering the Granblue brackets in Europe. I forgot which one it was, if it was, like, Outplayed or...
That was,
Revo.
what was it? Revo.
Revo, right, yeah.
Yeah, it was for BlazBlue, but again, I was kind of in the Granblue spirit after the first beta, so I thought I'd enter Granblue with that knowledge just for the fun of it, and I still had a good time. But yeah, overall, I played fighting games for a long time. I would say since like 2015, 2014 competitively, about 10 years.
Do you feel like when you
Not
play
quite
a
enough,
Zona, do you feel like when you play a Zona, you kind of like need a bit of time on the character, but also like on fighting games in general, since it's. I mean, if you're
Are
starting out
Zona's
with
boomer characters? Socky is asking.
I don't think so. I think you can start with the Zoner. You just
Yeah.
have to have like a different mindset and ignore like 90% of comments you get.
It's a struggle for a lot of people, like. But anyway, I guess move on to the next topic, Socky, in terms of I don't know. You got a list of topics here that you wanted to hit, but I don't know what order you wanted to hit them in, to be honest. You can talk about like Zonas in the current Grand Blue meta, I guess. That's the big one. It's one of the headliners, I guess.
I like how you're just throwing Socky under the bus every time.
I do that.
Yeah, you have
That's
topics,
my
let's go for
thing. I will constantly throw him under the bus. Socky, do everything for me.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't do a segue.
I know it's maybe kind of random, but we can talk about you as well. Considering you're also a Zona player.
What? I can't play Seahawks.
Come on, okay. It's so funny, when Dudeakoff played more Seahawks than Matera, he would call himself a Matera player, and now that he's like full-time Matera.
I don't call myself a Seahawks player, I'm just saying that to be contrarian in the moment.
No, tell us a little bit about your... I mean, you started playing Matera from the beginning, I think, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Bought Grand Blue, started playing around with characters, started initially with like Ferry for like a week or something, and it was like, it's not really for me. Like I was playing Street Fighter 5 before then, and I was playing Dalsim at the time, so I thought it was the most analogous character at the time. And then picked up Matera, stuck with her for ages, stuck with her until a character that completely destroyed Matera in base game came along, started playing that character, and then I didn't think Matera was too good at the beginning of Horizon, so I ended up playing more of that character. So I was playing Six for a year, and now I feel like she's a lot better, and the environment around her is better to play her in as well. You might disagree given the presence of Beatrix and all that, but it was I had a bad time playing Matera like early in Rising, so that was my opinion at the time.
Yeah, since you mentioned it, we could talk a little bit about the, how Zona's doing the current meta. I mean, we can, if you want to, we can like shortly talk about how it was like when Rising came out, like early on, especially, and how it's just changed, because some people might argue about it, but it's definitely changed the way Zonas are in the meta right now and how it was when the game came out, right? And like part of it is system mechanic changes. Some might argue it's only like people getting better with the characters, but there was obviously a lot of things, right? Like whether it's again system mechanic changes or character buffs and nerfs, right? Matera got buffed, Fairy got buffed recently. They didn't really touch them a whole lot. But,
yeah, I mean, I'm buffed like every patch, like slight buffs all around.
Same with Matera as well, actually. Like there was a bunch of buffs to Matera beforehand, which came into the fore once like the arrow buffs came in as well.
Also, for like Eustace, this might not seem like the big buff, but the biggest buff he got, especially for how I placed the knockdown on fireball hits. Like it's actually huge.
Yeah, when Matera got that was like a big deal in base game. It's pretty underappreciated. And like it's not so much she got it, but she kept it, as opposed to like every other character losing it. And that was a significant benefit for her.
And in terms of like not just buffs, but like I guess in general system mechanics and stuff, what do you guys think has changed since
in regards to Zonas?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mirri, you got any thoughts on that?
Kind of force on me. I mean, system mechanic wise, yeah. I don't think like too much changed system mechanic wise for Eustace at least. It's just that like the horribly bad matchups are gone now. Like there's no base game Shooks. There's no Lucilius level 5 at 10 seconds. There's no release Beatrix. Or like Belial in base game was awful as well. Like his issue always was like the absurdly bad matchups. Like he has a good matchup spread in a way, but then he also hella loses to like the top tiers. But now that they're not as oppressive, like he's the most viable he's ever been, really.
Yeah, the sick rate now has probably helped a bunch, and the
Yeah, that one also.
Belial like making his 5U like actually punishable on block. Though I think like for uses that was possible.
It was also already like punishable with the
the
guard
Michael Walk.
button, and that's
Oh,
like
yeah.
a huge thing in the matchup
Yeah.
compared to base game.
Yeah, it's I don't know if people talk about this enough, but it's like even if they put themselves like even if the character puts themselves like -4 in your face, that's still a win for them because just being in that space means they can RPS with you. They can engage.
Yeah, they skip the like the zoning part. Like
Yeah.
they're in your face now, and it's like the risk reward is usually in their favor.
Yeah.
With the
And, like,
characters to play.
It also allows you to like utilize the BC. You know, this is like matchups where people like tend to struggle a little bit using system mechanics like the BC. But like if you put yourself right in their face, and they are like forced to press a button on your block, chances are you're gonna get you can get a BC out of them, maybe even get a counter it, and then I mean that's go time. That's like a win condition for people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the BC changes definitely helped Matera's pressure at least. You end up blocking so many BCs with Matera. People love to BC on hop, for instance. So definitely a big benefit there, because also like being minus right in the face of someone is like really bad for Matera.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure how that's gonna go because it's not necessarily because in terms of like she doesn't really do like the close light pressure that's like safe to be that you can't BC easily, right? If anything, that makes the defense weaker. But at the same time, there's so many times where people in the past would just BC on hop, especially if they're like up BP, like just like Bitter BC's back, whatever. Right, like you're winning the resource war, and like you're plus in her face, and if she wants to BC, you just BC back, just to like skip all having to deal with the the situation after hop. And now obviously that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Monarch, do you have any like thoughts on like the system mechanics changes, how it's changed like zoning in the game, and I guess maybe like Matera buffs as well, and how they've changed it?
The use skills too, right? Like the slowdown, not the slow. No, I mean like they made like the use skills in neutral a bit more punishable. Some got like more minus, or like the spacing on block afterwards is better for the actual punish. Right, so and obviously the scaling also changed. Right, the use skills.
The scaling one is the huge one for me. It's not. I don't really get like huge punishes either way. I don't think Matera does either.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I mean, you both like, I mean, you can punish like really minor stuff, but outside of that,
yeah, I think a lot of it is like smaller individual character changes adding up to slightly better matchups. I don't think the core system mechanics have changed all too much from release. I think one big one though for me is DPs being guaranteed counter hit state. That guarantees like bigger punishes. It makes people think twice before like spamming DP of like -4. I think being able to enforce that is super important for Matera because without that, your biggest punish was what 3k. If you want to spend BP 4.5, 4.8. So that as a deterrent alone was pretty good.
Yeah, before there was definitely this like the thought process that early on when they don't have the meter or don't have butterfly, whether it's like Eustace or Ferry or Matera, it's like you can just send the DP because the punish is not going to be particularly bad, especially mid screen.
I think I had like decent punishes, but it wasn't enough to like stop people from DPing mid screen. Like in corner, it was enough, but in mid screen, it really wasn't. But now it's like way better with the DP chains.
And obviously, zonas typically don't have a DP, right? So that's like when they announced the changes, I thought that was like everybody who only has a UDP, like the UDP stocks going up, because for the UDPs nothing changed in that regard. Just for the regular DP characters.
I do think like UDP stocks are already pretty high before that change as well.
For
It's
sure.
like definitely the preference of a lot of players to use UDPs as opposed to regular ones.
But
But,
I still think they were too strong with the side switch and all that.
100%, yeah.
So talking about that, well, how do you feel about zoners in the current meta? Whether it's the matchups, system mechanics of the game for tournament run, tournament consistency, first to 3. We are assuming first. I mean, you can also assume first to 2 if you like.
You can talk about the differences. I think the way the zoners play can have an impact whether it's first to 2 or first to 3.
Yeah, I still prefer like first to 3 since I kind of start slow in the matches anyway. I kind of want to look what my opponent is doing so I can adapt the zoning. But I don't know if it's necessarily a zoner thing or like a personal thing. If you prefer, you can still play like in a FT2 way with Eustace, let's say, if you want. But it's just not for me. But as for like the meta now, I think this is like the strongest zoners have been. If you don't count like base game Fairy, who was on release, that was kind of.
It's kind of fucked up. Yeah, I love 50-50s. Yeah, I think it's pretty similarly to that. Like, oftentimes, because of the way that I play slower, generally, I end up, like, dropping the first game. And in first to 2, it's like, oh shit, panic moment, because it's like one game and you've lost. But first to 3 is a lot more comfortable. And then I can just get, like, a read on my opponent. And if they're not, like, top caliber player, the adaptations aren't like there isn't like a ton of adaptations from that point, and it becomes more comfortable at that point. Specifically thinking of early bracket, later on in the bracket, like first to 2, first to 3. I still prefer first to 3, just more games in general, but I think the difference matters a bit less in terms of like playing a zoner at that point. But yeah, Monarch as a local, as a guest from North America, where first to 2 is still played a bunch of a lot of tournaments. How do you feel about like first 2 versus first 3 for zoners?
It's tricky. I think it's a combination of what you guys just said, where it's like you want more time to adapt both on your end and as the opponent. But it's really like a player-to-player kind of thing, because that time won't always help you, right? It could be time spent as your opponent getting downloaded, or you're getting downloaded from the opponent, But at the very least, you'd want that chance to make the adaptation and like play slow, diversify how you're zoning, that kind of thing. So personally, I would still take first 3 or first to 2, just to have more breathing room. However, I feel that depending on the kind of zoner you are, you probably favor first to 2 or first to 3. Like, if you're more offense-oriented with stronger mix-ups, like, say, Fairy or maybe in Versucia with the high explosive damage, you'd probably benefit more from, like, first to 2 and just, like, bursting them down without giving them a chance to adapt.
Yeah, there's definitely characters in this game where like there is like an adaptation period each time like you go into a set with them, unless you play them like very recently, where you like kind of like, even if you've got notes about it, sort of like picking up the correct spacings where you need to be, what to do after like certain things, that kind of thing. I think Versucia is definitely one of those characters, just like getting used to the fact that you need to be like really conservative at far light ranges, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that definitely rings true as well, in terms of just purely if it's like an advantage playing first to 2 or first to 3 as a like more aggressive zoner.
Yeah. Not sure if it's a bit too much, but like reminds me just in general the way the game is played. I feel like you tend to like a lot of characters a lot of the time going into a set will go in with a general game plan that works against most of the cast in the game. And since a lot of it is so repetitive, in terms of like what you want to do or what's strong where, because of the strong system mechanics in the game. I feel like it's hard for people to do something else on like the get-go, right? And that is usually what you have to do when you're fighting a zoner, because they tend to, set the pace of the match and force you to, not just do your layer 1 I6XL here, I do that there, and just do my thing, right? Because like if they do that, you think about like characters like Lorraine, even characters like Vestusia, that have like a very strong presence on the screen. Even they kind of have to like, take a step back when they fight a zoner, and have to like play around what the zoner does. And for a lot of people, I feel like doing that like game 1 is very hard, and that adaptation tends to come as the set goes on. So in that regard, I feel like the first two can definitely favor the zoner. If your opponent isn't ready for it, which I feel like a lot of the times people just aren't, right? Because especially if you're like talking about playing like pools, right? Like if you're like logging in for a top 8, I'm sure your opponent has an idea of what they're supposed to be doing, right? But I feel like especially for the pools play, that can be very nice, right? Making it through pools a bit more comfy, because you know what you're going into when you play the zoner, but your opponent might have to adjust a little bit more.
I definitely feel on the zoner end as well. It's like against better players, I usually do better earlier in sets, and the stuff that's working earlier in sets stops working pretty shortly after the start of the sets as well. So there's definitely a little bit of like adaptation going on there because of that. But I think it's the same for a lot of different characters as well. Yeah, I think also like in your original question, you can like talk about the current meta, I guess, for zoners / the characters that people play here.
Right. Yeah. Matchups obviously.
We don't have first to free shilling.
Yeah.
I mean, the matchups are the huge fun for Eustace, at least. Like I said like earlier, like there's no like abysmal matchup anymore that I can get easily counterpicked by 7 of the EU players that like to counterpick me every time. Fidison. But there's still 2 bad matchups. I think like Beatrix is still bad. It's doable, but it's not fun. Then like Grimnir is just like overall like I can't stop her. I may stop him from approaching like infinitely.
It really seems sort of interesting, because I feel like with Beatrix, it's a lot more evident for people like what the issue is, because it's like you can't just do your thing, right? Like you can't, I'm gonna throw a grenade here to catch their roll, trying to get past my fireball, whatever, right? Because she's just gonna riding free, right?
It's not like I can sometimes grenade and catch the riding
like,
free, but it's like that normal projectile straight up loses to it.
Yeah,
that's like the annoying part, and also like they gave him like the counter hit buff now.
Yeah,
which is I just have to play more aggressive in the matchup in general, and like never use. Like ideally, I should never use grenades when Beatrix has 50 meter, if they know what they're doing.
I feel like Juice is not the only character where I've seen people say that they like that Grimnir does really well against them, but it's not necessarily something we see a lot. I feel like the Grimnir players, at least the few that do play him, tend to struggle more against the zoners than not, because of the thing where it's like usually a character with a very strong layer 1 that just gets to set the pace of the match very easily, because they put up the fireball, put up the seals, do your thing, right? But like the zoning can interrupt that, and to an extent, right? And I feel like we don't see that enough, where like the thing you mentioned, where it's like Grimnir just gets to kind of destroy the zoners.
You can kind of stop him from doing stuff for a while, but it's just the damage difference. It's way too huge.
Like he just gets past the ball or something, and like
like he will get past it eventually, and it's gonna be awful after that.
Monarch, do you have any thoughts on like Matera in the current meta, I guess, and maybe like Grimnir, Beatrix, as there's the characters that have been mentioned?
Let's see. I think the Bay matchup looks a lot better than it did pre-nerfs for her. It feels like, I'm not sure, it's gotta be because of the arrow speed buff, but I know pre-patch, when you tried to use low arrow against riding free, it was like a coin flip. But now, as long as you're like doing it preemptively, it seems to counter it consistently, which I think is pretty big for her. So it's still a hard matchup for Matera, but I think that change definitely made it more feasible to win in, despite the Delta Clock allegations. As far as Grimnir... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. Like, yeah, I agree. Like the arrow changes definitely helped when it came to like low riding free. If the arrow comes out beforehand, like most of the time it's gonna beat the riding free at that point. So they have to do it on a read that you're gonna do that arrow, and you can put them out preemptively at decent distances to prevent that, and that's pretty nice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like she's without options, even without riding free, because they can try to RPS slow arrows with the jump kick. Like
Thunderbird.
Thunderbird, yeah. So there's some counterplay involved in that, of course, but it definitely forces them to think about their approach a little more and gives Matera some leeway to zone a bit more freely outside of ult situations. As far as Grimnir goes, he's kind of weird. It's like the zoning against him isn't difficult when he doesn't have 50 meter, but it's like you have to check the approach on seals so precisely, because there are just situations on the field where like you can see him go to a seal to jump in, but 2H literally isn't fast enough to catch him out of the startup and anti him properly. So that matchup is like half playing preemptively to like cover seal space while also not overextending, so that you're not punished by like simple stuff such as ult skills or super jumps, rolls, etc.
Yeah. Like one of the things going from playing more Matera than more Seox is the Grimnir matchup feels like I have like less control in it. So even though like a lot of times I'm winning those matchups, it feels like if like something was to go wrong or something like goes Grimnir's way, it's a bit less like something that I can deal with because of the way the seals work and how like he can sometimes just get past stuff, and how the ultimate wind projectile will like kind of shut you down a bit and give Grimnir a lot more play in that matchup. But I don't know, it's like as opposed to like Eustace, where like the TK TK Grimnir dash would like just go over his like low projectile. He's got balls as well, but Matera can like cover the same sort of space with like the high arrow as well, and that helps a bit in that matchup as opposed to like a Eustace, I'd imagine. But I'm kind of rambling about it at this point. But yeah, largely agree with what you're saying about Grimnir.
Is there like any other matchup that like Matera struggles with? Like I assume Uno is still annoying with the parry changes.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh boy, yeah, absolutely. It just feels like him being able to like parry an arrow from full screen, and kind of like how Socky was describing earlier, being next to you while only being like slightly negative, is just super strong as an option for him to like skip neutral. In addition to his strong projectile as well. He's just solid in every way in that matchup. You just can't make too many mistakes. Or rather, you have to like zone him while being okay with making mistakes, but in like a measured manner.
Yeah, 100%. And it can be kind of frustrating, that matchup, if you're like playing against an Uno who's like getting a bit ignorant with it and just kind of sending it a lot of the times on the parries. And there are like counterplay stuff you can do, like far heavy into like a spot dodge, which you have to like be kind of on point with, but you can avoid stuff like that. But if you just like, if he gets like one end parry and you get the bounce in the corner, then you got to deal with that. He's going to get like install, and then you're going to deal with install on top of that. So good time all around. I think like one matchup for Matera that probably isn't as present in like NA at the moment would be like Siegfried. I feel like it's definitely gone a lot better for Matera, that matchup, and for me personally it's probably like more a me issue in regards to struggling against that character still. But how do you feel about like the Siegfried matchup, Monarch?
Like you said, it's definitely a better matchup than it used to be. I don't play it too often, but when I do, I feel like it's one of those characters where he lacks like conventional rising methods of skipping neutral, and it's more like just fundamental getting in with basic movement options. Of course, he can leverage his ult skill, fireball, better towards the corner to like deter zoning to get combos off of it. But other than that, it's like a very straightforward neutral game. I think the one disadvantage Matera has in that matchup is just like the sheer difference in risk reward as it relates to damage output. It's like a classification of characters for her where it's like the neutral is traditional, but you can still realistically die in like 2 to 3 hits.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day actually, because it's like there's not a whole lot of but there's a handful of characters with extra health in the game, and obviously a handful of characters with low health, and Matera being one of the low health characters. But luckily for the zoners, usually they do decently well against the ones with extra health, right? You think about Ladiva, or Azraga, or Sora's. But Siegfried, I feel like he's probably the one with the high health that probably does the best against zoners, which I feel like that probably plays a role, like a pretty big role in the matchup as well, which is in the risk reward that you mentioned, not just the damage he does, but also like you just have to like hit him a lot more than he has to hit you.
Yeah, that goes into the risk reward they're talking about, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It got a lot better after the nerfs, at least for Eustace. So since they also nerfed the EXDP range, so he can't just EXDP every special cancel from a mile away.
That's pretty big, yeah. Still got that SBA, but once per game isn't cinematic.
It's not. It's also like Eustace has the privilege of, which I don't know if any other character really has. I can like bait the super with the 2-1-4 heavy into guard if they're just tweaking to EX flashes.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know that one actually.
Never tweak to the EX flash.
I guess like in terms of like an overall view of where Zona's place in the current meta, how do people feel about that? Are they playing top tiers? Is this the Zona meta? Was it the Zona meta and we've moved on to the grappler meta now because of the last patch or something? How do people feel about that?
I mean, I don't think it's a zoner meta. If it's a zoner meta, you'd see like 8 Meteras in like top 8.
I wish, man. I like the mirror. It's good.
But like I said like earlier, I think it's like they're in the best spot they've ever been since like base game. That doesn't mean that they're gonna like dominate every top 8.
They do have like more of a presence in top 8s now, and they're winning more like individual tournaments, like online, offline as well. People have commented on that before. I guess like Monarch, how do you feel about the current placement of Zona / Matera in the current meta?
Yeah, I gotta agree with Mirri. They're definitely in a good spot, but I hesitate to call them top tier. It's just too. It's too much of a rushdown centric meta. There are too many anti-zoning options for me to outright say it's a zoning meta. But are they in a very good spot? Absolutely.
How likely do you feel like, or like how? I don't want to. No, this is a bit vague, but like how easy or like how hard do you think it is for a zoner to, I guess, win a major? like a, I don't know, gold plus gold/platinum event in Rising at the moment.
I think the chances are good.
Given the last offline you're at.
Oh yeah, true. Mirri W.
Huh?
Don't worry about it.
You already forgot?
Well, did you ask something? I missed it.
No. We're just making vague references to the fact that you won a head stomper.
But I mean, to be fair, I have pretty consistent results like all over Rising. It
100%.
hasn't changed in the patches that much.
Yeah.
I think it's an important factor to. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to add that I think it's an important factor that it feels like some people kind of forget too, is that a lot of the people who are winning consistently with zoners are people who have played those zoners for a very long time. It's not like they rose up because of the buffs alone. Kasu, Saki, of course, people who play well like Tahichi, things like that.
Yeah. Or mirri and Monarch.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like Monarch says, like, have you seen like new like zoner players pop up in these top 8s usually? I think like every time I see, it's like the same people.
Yeah, I think it's usually the people who've been playing their character for a while have kind of like got, they're like the Fairy players and some of the Matera players as well might like play slightly higher in certain brackets now. I'd guess on average. In terms of like being able to win like a offline event or whatever, is it? I guess in the case of Mirri, you can't really say that given the finals was against Beatrix. But is it a bit like dependent on the characters that they end up facing? Or
I mean, yes and no. Like you can have lucky and unlucky brackets, but I don't think, especially in EU where it's first to 3. I think, and you have like a losers bracket. I think you have like good chances either way.
Yeah,
like you can like lose one game or one set rather.
it kind of goes into like regional differences as well, I guess. Like EU, for example, has like a number of Beatrix players who are likely to appear at like different offline events. So might be more of a struggle for like zoner characters in this region as opposed to North America, where the character spread is a bit like more spread out.
Yeah, I really don't
I would
see
say.
a lot of Beatrix players in like the top 8s I watch in NA, which is weird.
Yeah, some really good players who can play Beatrix, like last year, for example, like Koji and Ava was playing like Beatrix for a period as well.
No, Torius was playing her a little bit as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about like regional differences in terms of like characters that are represented in like top 8s in North America, Monarch, since you actually live there?
Our character spread, it's pretty diverse. I feel like I could think of like a couple of players for each character who rep their character at a good and decent level.
Yeah, especially in regards to like dodging Matera's like bad matchups. Say like the Beatrixes, Grimnir, or Uno.
Grimnir's a bit different.
Yeah, there's definitely some luck there as well. It's not like I'm fighting Beatrix or even Henri in every bracket, but when I was looking at that question earlier, actually, I was thinking about like the player spread in every region overall, and I was having the thought that it feels like every character has about an equal amount of people playing them in each region. Would you agree with that kind of statement, or how do you feel about that?
So could you repeat the statement? Sorry.
No, my fault. I kind of mumbled it. I was saying that it feels like every character has about an equal amount of reps in each region.
I think that could be true for NA in Japan. I think in EU,
Yeah, I don't think it is too.
we have like characters that aren't represented a lot. And at the like highest level, we don't have like a like top level Grimnir, for example, which is like different from NA, where you can expect Zane at like any tournament you turn up at, basically, in on offline.
Yeah, what's that? What I was thinking earlier, where it was like even our best Grimnir, like probably like Minusagi.
Maybe I have Osage, but she kind of doesn't like enter
Doesn't
tournaments.
really enter stuff, and or like Pule, but like I don't think he's particularly good against zoners at the moment. So you don't really see the like the pain parts that you've mentioned in the matchup itself, I feel. So
We also don't have any, like, at the moment at least, like any top level fairies who play a lot.
Yeah,
we've been having some people that play
previously.
Yeah, people who've been picking her up, so that always takes a while. Like it takes like a character like Fairy, especially. I feel like where like the anti-airs are a little like can be a little bit wonky, or like spacing wise, some stuff can be a little wonky. So you really need like your time. Like I've seen Dudeakoff play the character, and then somebody jumps in and he whiffs the anti-air and dies horribly, and that sort of stuff. Obviously, you need to iron those out when you play a character like that.
We have too many low-end players, though. You can have like ours.
Yeah, we've got low-end players for days. We got Matrix players for days.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up actually, considering the current meta, because I feel like especially for you, Mirri, depending on if you want to like go to offline events and all that jazz, or compete. Let's say go to Evo Nisa or something. Like I definitely wonder how you feel, how it would look in a couple months, considering like pretty much top like 3 out of the top 5 players in Europe currently play Beatrix, right? Like you've got like Space on the Beatrix. Obviously Skill has been working on the Beatrix, and I would assume that he's gonna keep improving the Beatrix, and Fiddy's been playing a bunch as well. So in terms of that, like I feel like you can in Europe you probably can't win a major without at least running into one of these 3 players.
Yeah, I mean, like I've kind of accepted the fact that I just have to play the matchup. But like I said earlier, it's doable. It's not like I'm gonna instantly lose when I see a Beatrix on the screen. Just gotta lock in, the lock in me.
Just go log in, bro.
Yeah, I think that, like in terms of regions, that definitely makes it more difficult on this end. But the benefit of like that's the main matchup you have to worry about in terms of like the top players, so you can focus hard on that matchup, whereas a more spread one where you also have to worry about like other bad matchups for your character, like for example Grimnir, you have the like negative having to like cover those as well.
I was just wondering if you were thinking that like over time you can like keep up with the Beatrix improvement, or if the matchups are only gonna get harder, or like the matchup will only get harder.
I can keep up. Like I'm egoistical or confident enough in myself, to keep up with these Beatrix players. I can do it. Don't worry about it.
You're gonna figure out the matchup?
Yeah, I'm gonna figure out the matchup any day now.
Secret.
Beatrix it's also the thing, like, if Beatrix gets nerfed and like some other character comes as the anti-zoner, like Fidizen is gonna immediately switch to that one instead. And I assume like Skill is gonna do the same. So it's not like I can just worry about Beatrix. I have to play these matchups either way. It's not gonna change.
Monarch, do you have like much experience against Soras? I was wondering how you feel about that.
Yes, a lot actually. During the peak of like season 2 ranked, I would hop on ranked as always around 7 a.m. and the only people around at that time were Skip, a Sora's player, and Kiri, a Vera player. And so for weeks I would just grind the Sora's matchup in ranked, pretty much. That matchup I like a lot. Only because, well, it's definitely Matera advantage, but it's like I still feel like the RPS to beat Roll and Dash Punch is fun to interact with because you can't outright spam arrows just to beat it. Otherwise, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to other approach opportunities. But there's definitely like a rhythm to boxing him out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like skill often complains about the character. Like even on Beatrix, he'll complain about Zonas. He's not a huge fan of playing against them, for example, and especially with Soares. Just had a bad time in using that character against Eustace against Matera. So
I don't think Eustace like Soris is extremely good for Eustace.
Yeah,
it's also one thing is that I've complained about a lot. I don't know if you agree or not. That it's just how the game is. It's like way too easy to pick up a character and counterpick, which obviously annoys me as a zoner, you know. But like you kind of have to deal with this anti-zoner picks if they are easy to pick up.
Yeah, and like in a smaller region like EU, where you can expect to play certain people more often than you would otherwise, like picking up a counterpick for those characters is pretty viable, especially if you feel like you're struggle a lot against them. And like a Beatrix will cover like a number of characters as well, so Eustace, Matera, etc.
I think Beatrix is easy to pick up.
Yes. I know it's a controversial take, you know.
Oh my god.
I mean, while we're on the topic, we can talk a little bit about the obvious negative perception Zonas have been getting recently, like the way people have been talking about them. Well, you know, it's definitely been like always the case, but I feel like with how good they've been recently, that's definitely been a bit louder than usual. Like we mentioned, you can't really go into the EU court without seeing people talk about Matera on the daily.
What do you discussion about Matera yet?
We've had. But like, yeah, the question being, what do you think? Like, or like, what do you think are the reasons for that? Or like, I mean, it's kind of obvious question, but I want to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, it feels like a symptom of the zoners like starting out on release being overshadowed in comparison to the other archetypes, and the buffs like put them in that rising meta for the first time. So it's like it's almost like fighting them for the first time, I guess, for those kind of players who didn't see them as like viable or not having to consider the options against them properly because system mechanics kind of played that game for them.
Yeah,
that's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, like I remember like saying, like especially like Fairy for a time wasn't. I know it's like sounds kind of funny, but like it's almost like she wasn't the real character, right? And you just you don't have to like engage with her game really. Like you'll like you roll the dice a couple times, you get in on her, and then it's like Jova go next, right? But now it does feel that people actually have to engage in the matchups more, which
it's
if
also
you haven't done that before.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I think zoners require more actual involved labbing against them, like than a standard Shodo who's just 6xling in mid range. Like, it's not as simple to play against a zoner than it is against, let's say, I don't know, Gran. Like, he's just gonna do Gran things.
Like even you don't even need to like necessarily know how to like grants do boot in this range so you can DP it on reaction or the whatever, like how minus or whatever this or that move is. I feel like with how strong the system mechanics are in this game, a lot of people kind of get by just you do your thing, and when your opponent gets in a range where they can threaten you or they get anything going, you do the BC once you notice like that you can BC somewhere, right? Sometimes even without noticing it, you just send it, and then it's suddenly your turn, and then you can play the game. And that's obviously this sort of stuff doesn't necessarily work against zoners, right? You can't BC a fireball from full screen. I mean, you can, but you probably shouldn't be doing that. and just 6XL them, like engage in the 6XL game when they just, stay out of BC range and everything.
I think the perception thing that Monarch talked about is probably the biggest factor in it. Like, your initial understanding of the character came when that character was bad and you played it a particular way, and it felt like a fine matchup at that point, and then the matchup suddenly gets somewhat harder, and it's a matchup you don't enjoy in the first place a lot of the time. So a lot of times your perception of that will be like, that's like way too much, or they're too powerful at that point, etc., etc. And I believe that kind of like explains how a lot of times like people who were big into base game, like were playing base game when like these characters were again kind of a lot more viable than they were at the beginning of Rising, have a bit more of a like relaxed understanding of like the current zoners. So like they won't think like Matera top 3 or whatever, because like they understood when like their first encounter with those characters was when they were good, and like they developed a method of like playing against those characters in that environment, as opposed to the beginning of Rising where you kind of just a lot of times you can like kind of just roll the dice constantly and then eventually get in and win the game. That's a like really simplification about like zoners at the beginning of Rising, but you get what I'm saying basically.
Yeah, like BCing everything and safe up.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That was a good thing to do, because like if they block it, like you're right in the face of Matera a lot of the time. You do it and it's like bad.
But yeah, any thoughts about that, Mirri, Monarch?
About what? Zoners?
About zoners, yeah. No, just about the
talk about the young people and how like they don't want to work for anything anymore or whatever. Or,
the rising gamers.
I did originally write in, there that the most complaints I hear about are from players who either started with Rising or play more Rising than they played base game, which doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it was kind of something I observed.
So what do you think what do you think that observation is like telling you?
I'm just observing, man. Don't worry about it.
Just noticing things.
Would you like to elaborate?
No. But, but also like one thing that they're not necessarily complaining about zoning itself or zoners. They're complaining about individual tools mostly. Like Metera Farlight into 6XL is a big one that you always hear. And it's like the ultimate butterfly, but I don't think like anyone is defending the ultimate butterfly, really.
Can't defend the butterfly, I'm afraid.
Yeah, like no one I talk to really likes these zero risk, just throw it out there alt moves, like Alt Butterfly, Flame Carbet, Green Grenade, like they're all kind of unfun in a way.
Yeah, is there, Monarch, is there anything you wanted to add there?
I liked your point earlier about seemingly most of the complaints coming from people who started with Rising, because as you were saying, if you played vanilla, of course these are different games mechanically, right? But if your intro to Fairy was vanilla base Fairy and you were there for those war crimes, it's like the way those characters are now, I don't think stacks up to how they used to be or how good they were in that system. So even when you consider things like Fairy Pull, Side Swapping, or Ultimate Butterfly, it's not egregious. Of course, there's still room for improvement as far as like fine-tuning how those tools work, but it's not a nightmare.
What do you think of people like not doing properly? Is it like if they're like not done their homework, left stuff not properly, or is it just like a way they approach the matchups?
I think they're just very impatient. Like there's like 99 seconds on the fucking clock, You don't have to like dash into 7 projectiles at like 10 seconds in. Like health is a resource. You can just Volk, dodge, whatever. Like Volking gives a lot of meter in this game. And it's like one thing also, like the ones who are especially easy to read are the ones that immediately send out an ultimate skill when they get 50 meter. Like they just hope it hits and that they get in and skip like the zoning part.
It's so nice when they do that. Like, I don't have to worry about this tool anymore, thank you. Is there anything you see people commonly do wrong, Monarch, when it comes to navigating, I guess, Matera, but you can talk about zoning in general if that's something comes to mind with that?
Yeah, I think Mirri has it completely right. Health is a resource, and for me, so is time. When I wrote that tweet a while ago, the character limit kind of didn't let me say what I want to say entirely, but it's not just about RPSing, it's about choosing when to RPS. You see, like people either RPS too much, or they don't do it enough, or they don't know where to do it. There are definitely times when you want to engage, and generally those times when you have the resources to capitalize off of it the most, right? You have the meter, you have the positioning, things like that. But it feels like for the most part, people don't understand when to make those plays.
Do you think it's just an intuition thing? Like, like if you've played the matchup long enough, you'll get a feel for it, or is it like
I
something
think
else?
it's intuition, and it's also like watching your opponent's habits. Like there's like sometimes you can flowchart way too much on zoning. Like if you get lazy, you can abuse that as well.
Yeah, that one's tricky. I definitely think it's more of a player-to-player interaction, because not everyone zones the same, and they're not looking for the same places for you to interact in. Obviously, you can't fight the same person and the same character as you would another, but just like watching the opponent carefully and like, I guess, trying to interact with them and see what they're looking for is a good way to approach the kind of matchup as it relates to zoners.
Yeah, one thing when there's that Frosty Faustins final, well, I think it was winners final between you and Koji, where I did feel like it was like the opposite of how you'd see a lot of the time, where there was a decision not to like do RPS or like pick spots to like make a choice by Koji in that set, and that helped you a lot in that he was like being very patient and kind of waiting around a lot of the time for something specifically, I imagine, but it never came, and you managed to take advantage of that. So that's definitely like an example of that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, easily. That set was a really good example. I feel not just because of the RPS they didn't engage in, but what that meant in the long run. It was like, because he wasn't engaging and was kind of content just running the stable game plan of just, spot dodging arrows, whittling down time, I felt more compelled to zone, and he capitalized on that. That's completely viable.
Yeah, for sure. I've got nothing to add in terms of like things that people do wrong against zoners, I guess.
If you guys maybe
like the RPS aspect, or like knowing the choices that you can make at a certain point, rather than it just being like do X when they do Y, I think causes an issue for some people. Like you could be in the same spot in like the same scenario, and doing something different would be the correct choice, as opposed to doing the one thing that beats the thing or whatever, if you know what I'm talking about, to add on top of that. But I don't really have much else more to say. I think covered that point pretty well. You gonna say something, Socky?
yes. Maybe if you guys have some examples, especially like for your character specifically, that people, I guess, don't do enough or don't do particularly well. Besides obviously just being patient, but like, that plays into it a little bit, because people are like, oh, patience, and they don't necessarily know how to, I guess, apply that patience, or when to, I guess, what they should be looking for, right? What their game plan should be. Because I feel like a lot of the times people kind of like, they just assume that, like, like I mentioned under the tweet, I believe, where I said something along the lines of, for a lot of people, like, they think they kind of I feel like they assume that counterplay means, the zoner does a thing, and you react with something that beats that, and that beating means you get like hard knockdown with them, or like 50%.
I think that's also like one thing why people don't like zoners. Maybe is that there's no tangible reward you get for doing the right thing. Like you don't get the instant dopamine of getting 2,000 damage and a knockdown. Like just getting a jump in is usually a right thing already, even if they block it. Like you're already in their face. It just maybe doesn't feel as rewarding.
Yeah,
even if you block them at turret to 8.
I mean, I think it's still fine.
Yeah.
Especially if it's low down.
That's also one thing I added, like doing just empty jumps or mixing empty jumps and normal jumps, especially against Metera and Fairy. Metera, of course, you're gonna like watch out if there's a butterfly. You probably don't want to jump then.
Even with the butterfly, like if it's like full screen and it's coming towards you or something like that, like the way the hitbox works out, like super jumping over it will often like get you to avoid getting stuck in the butterfly because of that. But yeah, this is like getting more into the nitty gritty of like individual interactions and that kind of thing, which
yeah,
I think is difficult to do without like the game in front of you. So I think like generally the points we've come across is fine on that one.
I think people should be happy experimenting a little bit when they fight zoners, not necessarily in tournament, but in casuals. Right?
Yeah.
Just trying things out and seeing how well those work. And with things I don't just mean like, oh, I jumped and it didn't work. But like there's so many ways to jump. It's so many timings, so many angles. With or without a button coming in, like what button you press and stuff, which I feel like it's the sort of stuff that is like hard to put in words, but I feel like it's easy to see when you see somebody who's like very good at it, right? Or somebody that is not as good at it. Like I was watching you play Fiddy earlier, the other day, Dudeakoff, for example, and like utilizing the super jumps and like the Beatrix JH a lot. And then obviously there's certain characters too who have like absurd jump in buttons, right? Or like you said, the clash situations, right?
It's a clash off the J H, I think it is.
That just put you in a bad spot against this, like the rushdown character.
But since you asked about like matchup specific things, I did have something for Eustace, which is
go for it.
Like H grenade, especially in like neutral, should never really hit. Like there's a spacing where it hits if you dodge it, but it's like most of the time you should dodge it. It's like his damage is way higher when you have a grenade on him than when you don't. Generally, dodging the grenade is kind of easy. Also, like when most of the characters now with 50 meter, like I should not be able to throw a grenade in neutral. Like, yeah, it's hard to react sometimes. I get it, but it's like over 40 frames total. Like you can react to that.
For the red grenade stuff, there's like a bunch of meaty setups with the.
I mean, I don't do it on like okay. Like I usually have a setup for okay setups.
Yeah.
But like on the neutral or like on defense, if I throw it out, you should almost always dodge it. The other like easy, like quote unquote easy, like when I do the what's it called, close combat, the Rekka, and you go into the air, you can just like there's not that many mix-ups from it. Like the best I can do is like do it and like cancel it into a throw, so you're not like in a hurry to do anything there, and you can kind of, if I do the up follow-up, you can dodge and punish it. Like that's the move I keep getting away with the most against people who don't know how to play against it.
Yeah, especially since you can just do the dodge on reaction to him like jumping back and shooting.
Yeah, it's not like a hard reaction at all.
Yeah. So kind of like one of those specials where like you can kind of chill like the reward on his, like if he goes into the attacks and stuff isn't the time, and like you don't have to worry about much maybe the throw, but unless like a grenade is on you, that is not really like something that you have to worry about that much. And you know, he likes to bait revels with it as well, right? At times,
Yeah, it's
so
like
you don't want to be tweaking anyway on defense when he goes into it.
Yeah, there's like a few DPs that hits it anyway, but most of the time it's immune to DPs as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty bad at dealing with it, which is probably just like a muscle memory thing or something like that, but it's just the way that it animates for some reason, just like, I'm just going to stay here and like block the thing every single time. But yeah, no, it's definitely true.
Yeah, if you're fast enough, you can even punish it too, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
One thing also,
yeah.
like I know Skill hates it, is the light slow kill in corner. Like constantly doing that. Like, I mean, this feels like very basic info, but you know, it does go on cooldown if you dodge it.
I think the big issue he had that was like recognizing whether you charge it or not when he's trying to dodge it.
There should be a delay timing that beats both.
Think so?
Yeah, there usually is. It's kind of hard, you know. For example, Yuna is pretty good at like dodging most of projectiles, but then she has like a different issue that she does it too much, and I can catch it with light grenade instead. Which is also, you know, comes to like the part of watching what your opponent is doing.
How about Metera on the other hand?
Specific things for Metera. I don't know, like 6XL Firelight isn't an infinite, you can actually press buttons.
Yeah, it's insane how often I see people complain about 6XL Firelight in the EU Discord.
It's +2 as opposed to +1, man. It's like crazy. Wait until we find out like Ladiva 6XL Firelight or something. But yeah, like obviously, like if they press Firelight in such a way that like it will whiff on the last one if you don't do anything, then it will catch like a button or something like that. But it's very similar to like every other 6XL Firelight process in the game. It's just that because when like Metera's backed out enough, she can also shoot an arrow if like on a counter hit. So that's the difference that people get upset about, I imagine. But yeah, I mean,
Do you think there's any? Do you and like Monarch both like think there's any situations, especially against Metera, that people play like particularly poorly? Whether it's like butterflies or any of the arrows.
I'll let Monarch go since I've yapped a bit about it.
Yeah, it probably comes down to cancel options after arrows. Ideally, if you're like constantly spot dodging arrows, eventually she'll want to like use arrow rain, set up a seal. But it's like without meter, if you play a normal character, you can like, depending on spacing, droid that with Catalina or impulse in with Lancelot. But with 50, those kind of cancels are like super unsafe because alt fireball, alt advancing move, etc. Even without that, I think running past arrow rain against space independent is still pretty viable. And if not that, another good one, for example, is like the corner arrow rain setup where you like pop a butterfly that existed, shoot arrow rain, and then put another seal out while they're blocking arrow rain. That's not gapless either. You can like spot dodge the arrow rain during the seal set, for example. So it's a lot of just like calling out specials that kind of go unchallenged where they really shouldn't.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's like there's a few people who are like really good at like spot dodging arrow rain and picking out the points where like they can get out of situations, but the vast majority of the time, like if there's an arrow incoming and they don't like aren't already dashing forward, they will hold it a lot of the time, and that gives like Metera the capacity to get like butterflies out and like just basically run her win conditions. So yeah, that's a good one to point out for people. I guess with like the obvious one would be like you butterfly is like taking a lot of unnecessary risks against it. Like I feel like the vast majority of the time, like because it's such a broken move, like the best thing to do is just to kind of like hold it if like it's out and like Matera's free to do what she likes basically, and there's a decent amount of space between you and her. Obviously, like occasionally you need to be like challenging or like super jumping when like it's like on you and the arrows come in and it's like from far distance or whatever, but like holding majority of the time it's not like a load of chip. It's you take way more damage on these risks, you lose those risks more than you would like lose from just like holding it. So holding you butterfly, especially if you don't exactly know the individual small bits of counterplay, is the best idea.
Do you think backing off against it makes sense, or is it like because at the end of the day you can't really avoid it a lot of the times. So I've gone on this. I've like thought about this like back and forth a little bit, but I feel like at this point it's like
I think running down the
might
clock
be
is
better to
always pretty good, which is part of like why we back up away from it when it is approaching you. Obviously you're ceding space to Matera, which is exactly what she wants in that situation. That's like her mini win for getting the new butterfly out. But if it's like a big concern about chip damage and that kind of thing, that would be a thing. I'd say on top of that, like knowing the exact time that the U butterfly will run out at can be pretty helpful when it comes to understanding like when she is actually going to do something or try and pop it. A lot of times Matera will like actually try and pop the U butterfly because they want the refund at the very least. So there's incentive there to like understand the situation and find like what you can do there. But yeah, it's a broken move.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's definitely dependent on like the state of the match and what outcome you want to avoid. Like Dudeakoff said, for me it's about gaining space in most situations. So even if I don't pop it, I still want to like give myself more space to work with, and just putting it out there definitely commands respect. But depending on the tool set, you can try low profiling it, like Bay 2-2U. But easily the better option is to just kind of hold it, take the chip, and let the situation pass.
Yeah. Like Beatrix has like that option against it. There's also like Zoe with like H helicopter, which is pretty good at avoiding it as well. So that's like some characters have like some play against it, which you should be aware of if you play those characters. Yeah. Anything more wanted to add to like sort of individual bits of counterplay, or move on to like I don't know, talking about like specific tournaments the two guests have had, and then probably close out from there. I don't know, Socky, have you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean we could talk a little bit. I guess especially about like the zoner pressure. I feel like it's something people don't talk about a whole lot.
Yeah,
but obviously, like that's like a big problem a lot of people have. They go into it a little bit what like your character does for pressure, like what people, I guess, what fucks people up a lot of the times. Whether it's like butterfly stuff or slow kill, or even like extended stuff like blue grenade.
Yeah, Mirri mentioned the grenade in the corner and like looping the grenade in the corner is like one example of that. So
the slow kill, yeah.
Slow kill, yeah. I mean, mid screen, I don't really have like too much pressure besides the normal cancel into special things that can, I can press a button in the slow kill and RPS, or look at your habits if you're like rolling or dodging 24/7 to catch them. But in corner, his pressure is very... The way I do it, it's very oppressive, but it's also not very damaging unless you really like mash into it. It's like doing a spaced 6XL, which is usually BC safe, into a button, into a special. And you kind of just have to RPS with the special or like call it out. Like I said, with the slow kill, you can dodge it, so it goes on cooldown, so I can't do it again. Like you can't straight up punish it unless you have a super or like an ultimate skill that goes through. And like button into grenade has a huge gap that you can maybe react to, especially with ultimate skills. Like that's also some things I get away with sometimes.
Yeah, I try to do that with like Q-Arrow, for example. I guess the main thing is like the space pressures that like a lot of zoners do, like Eustace, for example. People struggle with because there isn't like an easy way to BP and BC out of those situations. So you have to actually like know individual counterplay, know what to look out for. So as opposed to like regular pressure,
it's more involved. Like you said, like you actually have to open up the training mode.
No,
unfortunate, I know.
Yeah, similar with Matera as well. It's like butterflies in the corner. She's able to like space herself in such a way that don't have to worry about BC. But like as opposed to Eustace, where there is kind of an endpoint to like Matera's. Like if she's using H butterflies, for example, like holding that, the butterflies don't do much chip. Like Matera in general, like the chip isn't as much as you probably think it is a lot of the time. Is generally a good idea against her. She also does have BC points as well. Like her close light, due to being slower, is more BCable than the rest of the cast because of that. So oftentimes you won't be in a situation where like they'll close light you BC and they block it. So that's something to be aware of. And the Firelight, like if it's not like absolute max range Firelight, like if it's an instant BC as well, will like blow her backwards as well. These are the main things I would probably say about that. I mean, there's the individual things in terms of like throw baits and that kind of thing, but obviously it's similar to a lot of things in this game where, you know, the butterfly's on you, so there's a lot more risk from trying to attempt that like throw attack or that mash. Also like mash standing as well against like TK arrows, that's a big one. Like a lot of people will get caught like pressing like low buttons and getting hit because of that. But that's also a common thing in this game.
I think for a lot of people, especially the fact that, you know, since it's not a particular conventional pressure, I mean, I feel like people have been trying to adapt the pressure more and more, like you've mentioned with the Space 6XLs. They're like BC safe. But in general, since like these characters usually avoid putting themselves in a range where you can easily BC them, or, you know, put the state on you where you can't just BC, or like you don't want to BC, like say Matera, like Butterfly explodes and then she goes for Hop, and like you're not going to be BCing there. Unless it's against space, and she's like still in the air when you can BC. But, you know, point is, since people struggle to find spots to BC with these characters, they tend to have a harder time getting out of that pressure. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know. Monarch, did you want to add anything to like Matera's corner pressure and dealing with that?
You addressed a lot of it. I think a question I get a lot also is, I brought up earlier though, it's the arrow rain loop where you do seal, arrow rain, seal over and over again. But again, especially in the corner like that, because she has to pop the butterfly first, there's like an RPS where you can roll the arrow, or you can try to time the dodge against arrow rain. But it feels like people who don't know that kind of just let the situation loop over and over again when there are ways to counteract it. What else? I think that's the main thing. Her pressure isn't too crazy, so there's not a lot to cover, really.
Yeah. No, it's like, as opposed to like you butterfly, like if there's a butterfly on top of you and they shoot an arrow that is like very rollable, and you will not get hit by the butterfly explosion at that point. So, you know, feel free to do so. Although it's hard to react to because of how like arrows and the fire heavy are pretty fast.
They mentioned it a little bit earlier about the BC spots. Fogel mentioned in chat, where you consider like the main BC spots besides like the close light obvious that you mentioned earlier against Matera, or like Matera pressure in general.
I'm gonna like pivot there? Like, do you really need to be easy against her pressure?
Yeah, that's one of the things I was talking about. Like, just holding it a lot of time is good. I think being aware of when you can BC Matera is also good though.
That's fair.
Just so like you can avoid like any sort of strike throw stuff if that situation occurs. But
I think what's strong about that is like being able to turn the situation around, right? Going from
like Matera hit and counter hit BC is disaster for her.
That's what I'm gonna say is that you spend most of the match trying to get in, even if the pressure isn't scary. As the opponent, you still might want to BC just to get a chance to run your turn, right? So I can't disagree with that as a strategy. As far as other BC spots go, I think Dudeakoff checked me on this one. If they BC a hop in the middle of the startup, isn't that a guaranteed spot too after as an explosion?
Yeah, if they hop and join an explosion, then yeah, that's like a guaranteed spot if they're still in the air. Like old base game Matera, like how she would run pressure is like pop the butterfly, hop in, and then continue doing stuff there. And if they do that in this game, I do believe like if you BC the explosion, then they will get hit by it, and it's guaranteed at that point.
Yeah, spaces IBC against Matera a lot of the times are like those, right? Like especially the spaced explosions, like even the U ones, which like hops in after, or like if a far light situation occurs that isn't spaced, like a lot of the times after you did something in neutral, right? Like let's say you are a character with advancing special, whatever, like Catalina or something, and you do like a 2-4 in neutral. You put yourself, -5 spaced. So they take their turn with 6XL or something. And that's obviously like an easy BC spot because in those ranges, the 6XL is not going to be spaced to avoid the BC, right? Unless some miracle happened. Or you do, I don't know, like you do the 5U slash with Kalina and like put yourself like closer up. Or, you know, any other character, right? Like a lot of these tools, Grand Boot, whatever, you put yourself in a range where your opponent will likely take their turn with Far Light or 2M or 6XL or something. And a lot of these can be like BC'd a lot of the times, right? Where it's like you're in a spot where like the Matera hasn't like properly set up the space, right? To avoid those BCs. So neutral, obviously if she's like doing a space 6XL, space Far Light, you don't want to be seeing those. But if like you put yourself in a spot, right? A lot of the times that is not the case. They're not going to be outside that range. So those Far Lights I like to BC, or the 6XLs, or you know the hops. Let's call them lazy hops on the butterfly explosions. Well, you can still BC them while they're in the air. Those are usually pretty good. Or you know if you're fighting like Desolate or something, and he goes for like auto combo, because he's like has no fear, then you know that's probably like an easy BC spot against them, right?
Yeah, I mean Ed mentioned in the chat there, like if they do like a hop into like immediate JM, that's like pretty soft BC there at that point, because they're going to maintain being in the air at that point to do the second hit of it, and they'll get caught in the air because of it. They can delay the JM to like be able to land and block in time for a BC. But if you see them like doing a lot of early JMs, that's definitely a point there. I'd also say like when you do get an advantage on Matera, like, and she is trying to push you out by like applying pressure to you, like BCing her back into the corner can often be a very good thing to do. Depends on the game situation, of course. Like if you're at like 1 BP or whatever, you might not want to do that, but that can be strong as well.
Yeah, while you're on it, I feel like not just with the BCing, but like also with the RPSing, I feel it's like particularly strong when you are in a situation versus the zoner that they didn't create, right? Like because like if they set up a situation and they're running offense and you're trying to RPS them on it, chances are they probably like have more information. I mean, if you like, you know, if you've been paying attention, maybe you have more information than they have. But a lot of the times, obviously, they are in this position. They put themselves and you in this position and they probably know what all the options are and what the options are that you can represent. But if it's the other way around, where you put them in a spot, right, where you create a situation, a spacing and like the frames and everything, and you RPS them on it, right? And like they have to like, let's say like you mentioned, they're in the corner and they have to push you out. They are a lot less likely to be, I feel like, to be ready for, you know, the RPS that you can represent. Especially if they're like, again, on defense where they don't have the butterflies up, or they're just looking for a way out, or they want to BC you, or this or that, or don't want to get hit, right?
Being in the
Which I feel
corner is
like
generally
people-
pretty bad, but like from a terror, it's very bad as well, because part of being like a zoner is the ability to like maintain space and have options at different spacings that other characters won't have those options. So basically having like really long perks that can catch other people, and when you lose like half of your ability to regulate that space, like it becomes a lot more difficult to do that, especially with like the fastest fire button she has being 8 frames.
Yeah, I mean, with how like how good backdash and shit are in this game, I feel like returning back to neutral, and with how bad some knockdowns are, returning back to neutral is pretty easy in Rising, unless you find like Beatrix or something, or Belial, and you know, not being able to, you know, you can't rely on that as a zoner if you're already in the corner, obviously. So
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to add, but how do you feel, Socky?
how I feel.
Yeah, should we move on to like talking about like individual tournaments and then like probably close out from there?
No, I want to rant about something.
Yeah, go for
Do you
it.
think
That's more interesting.
Do you think there are like any misconceptions about zoning?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like
Yeah.
something more that I also said in the chat, like that you need to RPS in neutral. Like I see that comment like a few times now, that you need to RPS in neutral against zoners. But aren't you like RPSing anyway against everyone? Like aren't you RPSing when you see someone dash? That if they're gonna like dash 6XL or dash jump? Are you RPSing in pressure, like when they're doing 6XL into either 6XL power line, 6XL dash throw? Like you're still RPSing. It's just that the zoners make you RPS in a different spot than everyone else.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like what Monarch was tweeting about and extended on here as well. In regards to like actually talking about the situation, not as a like sort of the misconceptions about it, but yeah, that's also true. Like if you're playing on other characters, like I don't know if it's like a feeling of control of the situation that people have, or like feeling that like, oh, if they just waited and reacted or something, then that would have been the correct thing, so they did something wrong or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of like individual situations, and you're guessing on those individual situations, and you know, fighting games, etc., etc.
The illusion of control when you 6XL them before they 6XL you.
That's a classic, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like especially since like zoners tend to apply that quote unquote RPS to something that is that goes further than 6XL, right? Because with our characters, you know, you're in 6XL range, you just accept that it's like, if I don't hit them, they're gonna hit me first. But I feel like other people, or like I feel like when people go up against zoners where it's like you're outside 6XL range and you still have to like interact with what your opponent does, and you know the sentiment I feel like I see a lot. So people say it's not particularly interactive, right?
Yeah, I say that a lot. I think that I mentioned it earlier as well, that maybe they don't see the tangible reward, you know?
Yeah, I find it very
We're getting
strange
a-
because when I'm playing against zoners on like non-zoner characters, I feel like there is like a lot more interaction points than the standard matchup, and there's a lot more like toing and throwing in different areas of play which make it interesting. But you know, I exist in my reality, my perception of my own reality, as opposed to other people's is completely different, so I have no idea what they're thinking. Yeah, Monarch, was there anything you wanted to add to any of those points that we had there?
Yeah, I gotta agree. I think it comes down to people just not knowing either how to interact or where those interaction points are. Um, I don't think it was asked yet, but I really like Gamera's approach to fighting Matera because most of it is just like reaction dodging arrows and just like gaining space gradually and
Yeah.
like putting himself at ranges where he knows that rolling the next arrow will leave him at a position where he can like either keep advantage or start it. And in addition to that, just by doing that kind of game plan naturally, he's also gaining meter so that he can eventually build to a point where he can RPS and have like the ult skill as leverage, you know? So people shouldn't feel that they have to RPS all the time against Matera because you can definitely play it slower and just like gradually work your way into with the threat of like meter enforcing interactions through the virtue of having it.
I think people also underestimate just how much meter you get simply by walking. Like, just doing that, like what you said with Gamera, just walking forward and dodging. Like, you build so much meter just doing that.
Yeah, I feel like I win games just like getting a butterfly out and walking behind it and getting like 30 meter in like 2 seconds. I think those interactions are underestimated. But yeah, if you got
I do,
broken 50 meter use skill, just build the meter towards it. And even if you don't push Matera or Eustace or a lot of these characters into the corner, is another good win for you in those matchups.
Yeah. It's like the thing is it's patience. I think is a big like key component there because like you mentioned, a lot of people that build the meter, then they send it immediately, and it's funny because like you watch like every Zona match ever, and it's like the 50 meter on deck, and suddenly like the Matera does nothing anymore, right? Or like they push butterflies out or something, and then they like just be like before the meter was even there, or like save fish, right? Like they did the arrows, the rain first, and the butterflies. So you can punish, and then now they're like just standing behind it or walking behind it, or like you see Banzai, he goes in the air, or you see Mirri, he does like a little like walking back and forth, and it's like so obvious that they're like looking for the use skill, and then it tends to eventually come because obviously people are get a little patient, and want to utilize these things, and obviously, you want to be sending those, right? But do you feel like people don't necessarily like save the meter for like when an interaction happens again, and instead just like, you know, it's like the first one to shoot loses, and if you're playing that fight with a zoner, chances are you're losing because they know like that's usually the gameplay they have to play, right? Like the quote unquote patience where they don't send it because that's the life they live, right? Like when 50 meter on deck, you stop because if you don't, that's how you die, right? Because like that's obviously applies to a lot of matchups in the game. So I feel like you're definitely primed to handle those scenarios well.
Yeah,
Unlike
100%.
some other people who are like, again, like if you're playing against like, you know, non-zoners, you don't necessarily have to have that, I guess, skill down.
Yeah, I'd say most of the time if you're playing against like a zoner that is aware of the situations they're in, holding on to 50 meter for like the U fireball that beats everything is like 9 times out of 10 better than sending it or like trying to tweak on something, and then using that situation in order to actually like do other things is probably going to get you more wins than just like sending it when you feel like they're going to shoot an arrow. So that's 100% so. I think I'd like, you know, I feel like some people sometimes don't appreciate like the moves have a utility outside of their usage. So like the threat of that is forcing me to not shoot as much arrows. Me not shooting as much arrows gives you more opportunity to get in. Therefore, you could use that opportunity to get in as opposed to using the U arrow. I mean the U projectile or whatever that beats everything. Don't think there's anything. Is there anything else to add to that?
I think you nailed it. I think the threat of 50 meter is much more valuable than spending it outright.
Yeah, I agree. Like, way too often people just immediately just send the 50 meter, and I can get back to zoning.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising how often just like waiting for them to actually send it works out. Like, it's pretty rare when like I'm waiting for like a U projectile like full screen or close to full screen and it doesn't come at some point.
Since you mentioned Gamera Monarch, do you think there's any like other players that people could specifically look out to, who like handle I guess zoning in general particularly well, besides just saying people that play base game a lot?
I think Gamera is my main example, but like I was saying earlier, I think Koji's approach is pretty good too. Yeah, I think it's just Gamera for now is all I have. In regards to Matera, at least.
Yeah. On the EU side, I think Fizzin deals with Matera very well. It's probably the best in the region at that. Socky does a pretty good job as well.
I'm decent.
He's okay, Sometimes nice with it.
No, now you mentioned me being nice with it. I remember what I wanted
Let me
to
talk about that.
No, but like I feel like a lot of the times, I mean, this is like a mistake that I fall into as well. Is that the thing Mary mentioned about the disparity, right? Like people not like getting that like instant gratification on doing the right thing in the matchup. That like applies to a lot of the things in the matchup. I feel like where it's a lot of the times with zoners, what can happen is that you're losing, right? For like 70% of the match, and then you get one good hit and they explode, and to you that feels more like that doesn't feel like par for the course. It feels like I got lucky, right? It's like I don't know what I'm doing. It's a mess. There's nothing I can really like do that is like consistent with this, and I somehow like clutch out a win, right? Because I got lucky or because I did something dumb. But I feel like to an extent, obviously, that is what fighting a zoner is about anyway, right? Because like a lot of the times, obviously they're winning neutral, right? Because that's what the zoner does, right? And obviously you're going to be blocking more of their stuff than the other way around for a good amount of time. And then once you do get in, bad defense, yada yada, like obviously you like less health and so on and so forth. So obviously it's gonna be more likely that you get like a good hit, or like when you get a good hit, that they're already like low on BC because they spent the BC to push you back out earlier in the set, which before you consider it as like a loss for you, but like when it all culminates to you getting like a good hit after like 60 seconds or 70 seconds into the round, and then it goes from like the 70% or like the 60% life lead she had, or he, whatever, it's gone in an instant. Like that is not necessarily like, again, the way you feel about it, I think, because I my brain does that to me every now and then. I feel like not just against zoners, where I feel like, I kind of like I'm ass, will I clutch it out because my character does 10 more billion damage. But that obviously happens a lot more against zoners. But that is also part of what fighting zoner is all about. Wouldn't you guys agree? Question mark.
It definitely is a mental thing. Yeah.
It's an excellent point. That's why I was saying earlier that it feels like a rush down kind of game, because if the zoner spends even 1 BP, right, you can take that time, you get the next hit in with an SSBA, that's all the BP plus 70 upwards damage, so I think that kind of BP economy supports the idea of a slower way to get in, but greater rewards for getting in. I don't want to say that that's the only way to fight zoners, but it's definitely the most stable.
Yeah, definitely true. Like, I expressed my qualms with like SSVA taking 2 BP and doing so much damage before. That's like one of my least favorite things with the game, probably. But the way the game is, like, especially with that factor, that definitely supports like a more patient approach to playing against zoners, just because of the like sheer reward once you get to that point.
It's also with the BP economy that, correct me if I'm wrong, but Metara usually uses her meter for ultimate skills rather than the super.
Yeah.
So if you lose the BP, you like permanently lose it. You're not getting it back with the super, like a lot of other characters.
Yeah, it's definitely an important point. Like,
Yeah, I feel too like a lot of the rounds I lose also tend to be like one hit away from like winning, even if like the live lead doesn't suggest that sometimes. But then you look up and it's like Metera at 0 BP or Metera 1 BP, and she has like 60% health still, and you're like at 10. Like that's still like one good hit away from winning, right? Like people, it's hard to like think about it that way, but
I usually
like,
actually think it that way. Like I try to ignore the health bar. Like if I'm at 60% and Beatrix is at 5, we're even in my head. But at the same time, if I'm at 5% and someone is at 100, I still think I can make the comeback, unless it's Wayne who can chip me out. Like I usually think like every round is still winnable, regardless of the life bar.
that is rising at the end of the day, but it's definitely more amplified against zoners with less health, and the likes, where you're like more likely to be spending those PCs and going up against top tiers, especially those that can utilize comeback mechanics particularly well. But like that's been the case throughout the whole lifespan. I feel like playing every character I've been playing, that's always been like a reoccurring theme where, you know.
Do you think it's a rising thing though? Like I think it's a general thing. Like I've had this mindset like every fighting game I play. It's like it's maybe more prevalent in Rising, but that's always how I felt about it.
I feel like in Rising it's like you know, like the comebacks are definitely a lot easier to achieve, but it's also that corner position, or like the position doesn't matter as much every now and then, like for damage especially, right? Like you can have like a huge lead and your opponent is in the corner and they're one hit away from dying, and then they can like land a 2M into like a U skill and put you in the corner all of a sudden, or like you get hit by like a near 2M right into like 10k damage, or you know, Beatrix, whatever, into Clock, or that sort of stuff, right? Where that's always been pretty prevalent, at least in Rising. Where obviously, I mean, in base game, you can argue that, like, since defense is so strong, you could definitely, like, you can make these comebacks as well. But I feel like it's less so. I feel like when you, like, yeah, sorry. I feel like it's less so, like, it doesn't ignore as many aspects of, I guess, fighting game intuition as it does in Rising, where, like, again, you're, like, in a position that feels very winning, right? You have your opponent in the corner, BP advantage, and so on and so forth. Yeah. But correct me if you feel different.
I mean, when you're saying it's like a mindset thing, is that just like an approach thing, or is that like relative to the reality of the situation? Like, you feel like you need to have the mindset that you're on equal health in order to play your best, or you feel like you're on equal health because the game, like, mechanics are built in such a way that you basically are?
I think it's like the game mechanics that I think I'm in equal health, but the mindset part is more about, like, I genuinely think that every round is winnable. I always thought that. Like, it's not a Rising thing for me. It was the same in Exert. Like, if I had 5% and the opponent had 100, I still thought I could win the game. Yeah, it didn't matter.
The scale of how difficult it is a little different, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the thing. But yeah, it's still definitely winnable.
Well, how you do it, I feel like, is the big difference, right?
Yeah, I mean that's from game to game for sure. I don't know if you Monarch had the same like mindset or whatever in like Blaze Blue, for example. Like if you thought every round was winnable no matter what, or if there's like some cases where you're just GG, it's over, go next. There's also the difference in the games, of course, with burst available and meter and whatnot. Whereas in Rising, you just don't carry anything over the other round.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good comparison. I definitely get this more of a mindset thing of just never being out of the match mentally. Anything is possible, right? But obviously, the more tangible resources the game gives you to make those comebacks reinforces your mindset and how winnable you think it is. And I think that's definitely true for both Rising and Blaze Blue.
Yeah, I think Rising especially. That's just again like just from experience, it's come up a lot. Especially if I mean, at least if you're playing like a good character or like a character that can utilize a lot of strong situations, or you're not fighting Lorraine, because sometimes the chip is unavoidable and you have to die.
If you just spot dodge correctly, you get past it, it's fine.
So true. Simply avoid the HPA and the food. But yeah, I feel like that roughly covered most topics, unless either of you have anything to add, anything to rant about.
I've got like for Monarch specifically, like you had the Frosty Faustins run on old Matera, and like clearly post-patch Matera is a better character, but do you feel like there was like a big gap between like pre-patch and post-patch Matera?
Just considering 2.0?
Yeah, just after the arrow changes, basically. So 2 frames.
Not really. I can't say for me it affected my game plan or how I viewed the character overall. For me, arrow was still a base control tool, obviously. It being marginally faster helps in certain situations for sure, but I just didn't think it was a pivotal change in like her functioning as a character.
Yeah. I mean, I asked specifically because like a lot of the perception of Matera was like kind of like low to mid tier, like before that change, and then afterwards she has been rated like significantly higher. And like for me personally, I feel like it's a cultivation of like a number of changes over the course of like a number of patches that kind of add together to make the character there is now. But there definitely was like a perception shift after the most recent like buffs to Matera.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I definitely think I value other changes like Arrow Rain being faster and Butterfly Pops offering full hit stun for better conversions. Taking in stock all of those changes in conjunction with the arrow changes, for sure, she's a much better character, but the arrow changes alone don't mean too much for me, at least.
Nah, cool. Yeah, it was just a question that came to mind since Socky asked if there was anything additional anyone wanted to add. So if there's anything else anyone else wants to add at the end of this, go ahead now.
I mean, I can ask the boring question: is there like anything you specifically want for Matera in the like upcoming patches or something?
Beatrix nerfs.
That would be so. For me personally, yeah, Beatrix nerfs. But I mean, just like weird quality of life stuff. Like I've asked for it forever. I want like airthrow to be able to pop butterflies. I think that'd be cool. It will not change much at all, but like
That would be sick.
I'd like that. Trying to think of like if there's any sort of like jank interactions that still really bother me a lot of the time that I'd like to see changed.
Do you think Matera deserves to get buffed, or do you think the Sonos have had their fun for too long?
I didn't ask for buffs though. I just asked like if you want changes, or did I say buffs? I don't know.
It's
Anyway,
changes, I think, but yeah.
Yeah,
Changes, yeah.
I'm instigating.
he's instigating it.
Yeah. In regards to you both, I think they will change that at some point. I think if it ends up being the case, like it like auto launches on hit or something like that, we kind of get away with it a little bit. There could be like much more significant nerfs to it, but I would hope it would be a smaller nerf. But you know, we'll see what happens.
What are you expecting, like, considering the current discourse? Like, how do you guys feel about, like, do you feel like your character...
Is there any changes that Monarch would like to see made to the character before that?
Let's see. On a practical level, I think I want them to adjust 1H and 2H, either to have a better frame advantage or maybe to make them faster. Like we were discussing earlier about like being at -4 or similar frame advantage at close range. It feels like people deliberately jump into her at that kind of range, knowing that they can like BC afterwards, for example.
Yeah.
I think her anti-air stability is a bit shaky, and I kind of want to see that addressed in some kind of fashion. I think outside of that, though, I also want them to do something with 6M and 66H. They just feel a bit too situational. It's like they're not even there in some cases.
No, those are both really good points. Like the fact that you can like essentially anti-air someone with like a 1H or a 2H and they land and it's like +1 from a terror and therefore essentially like their advantage kind of sucks. And also like the ability to, well, the way that their hitboxes work, it's like there are times where you shoot it, they will jump over it, and like you kind of like deserve to get that hit in that situation, even if it's just a blocked hit, and you end up dying because of it, and those sorts of interactions really suck as well. So yeah, I definitely agree on that one. And 66M, 66H, like I never use, so changes to them to give them some sort of use would be nice as well. Yeah, Socky, what was your question before that?
Before we do that, I want to extend the question to Mirri or Eustace.
It's the same thing as always. A steeper angle on an M slow kill.
Holy shit! He wants the.
I've been asking that for like ever since he came out. Really, you know.
Do you have the image available?
I don't have the image.
Fuck. How will the kids know what angle you are looking for? Can't flash the image on stream.
He wants a sheer wall put out in front of him.
He wants to be able to catch jumps.
Olympic climb.
Yeah, like currently the M slow kill is like way too situational, like borderline useless. So I would just like it to like go closer to Eustace to catch like people trying to jump over preemptively. It's not like gonna make or break the character. It will be just a nice quality of life change.
But yeah, what I was saying was like, but what do you guys actually think is gonna happen in the near future in terms of well, your zoners and the zoners in the meta? Do you think they're more likely to get buffed, or they're more likely to get nerfed, or just untouched?
Honestly, the patches have been so random that I can't say.
I think
Like
historic.
it feels weird, like watching the patch notes. Like sometimes they make sense, and sometimes there's Vaseraga buffs that don't make sense.
For sure. I think historically Matera has been pretty well treated in patches, including like base game. Like I think from base game to Rising, like the changes weren't good for her, but like as we've gone on in various patches, like she has improved over time and got like quality of life stuff that she needed. For example, like auto combo into 623H being pretty consistent now. And they've been trying to do that for like years. They finally got around to it where it is good now, I would say. There are still some spots which are a bit odd, but it is very rare. So I would think that I think there would be butterfly nerfs at some point. And might be some sort of like small compensation buffs in some other things, which would be nice to see. I don't think the dev team, like, I don't know, it depends, like, because we haven't really had this perception of Matera being like really, really good in, I think it seems to be the case in Japan from people asking about how Matera is perceived there. It's definitely the case in EU and NA, so that might cause the dev team to think she needs to be addressed in some way. But historically, I think they've been pretty good with patching Matera, and I would say that would continue, hopefully.
Yeah, like Mirri was saying, the patches are a bit unpredictable, but for sure they're probably going to touch Tsuyu, just given his reputation at this point. Other than that, it's kind of a toss-up. The problem is that they've pretty much buffed every aspect of her game plan, or her moves, rather. So I think just based off of that alone, and her seemingly strong reputation in all regions, she might receive mostly nerfs in the next patch.
Do you think your career will end anytime soon?
Huh?
I think Mirri's completely fine. He's been playing like a bad character and winning all over the place for forever, and now the character's decent, so that can continue. I think Monarch will be fine. He did pretty well on widely considered like lower tier character in Matera previously. She was probably better than people perceived her, including myself at that point. I haven't tried to create a stat. I know, I'm so nice. And my career's never started. I've been getting 5th place recently, that's been nice. We'll see what happens.
That now sucks, the your career ended, in a sense.
I mean, I think like this has been my best spot. It's just like at the moment, which is kind of sad, but I don't know. What else am I going to add to that? But yeah, depends how they nerf them both her, personally. I'm obviously willing to switch characters if I feel like she's not up to snuff. I think I play best with Matera than any other character in the game, so when Matera is okay, I will usually play her.
Since you were expecting the 2 nerfs, you think it's probably still going to be fine? Or like both of you probably think it's still going to be fine playing her, even with was you Butterfly?
I think you are.
I mean, as long as it's still... Go ahead.
I think URs are still like a really good expenditure of like meter. You'd probably pick more spots to use that. You might use more meter to like say escape a corner or something like that, like jump you both like U arrow in order to keep them grounded, get them in block stun, then like hop out or something. Like that kind of thing. Maybe more niche usages of that rather than like spending it on butterflies. I'm a big U butterfly advocate there, so it would be like a significant hit to her, and if they completely destroyed U butterfly, if it starts uses, he'd probably still end up using it and still being a good character. But, you know, wait and see type thing, I guess.
Yeah, same. I'm a big 2TU believer as well. I can't see them crippling it too hard, just based off the nature of how it functions to begin with.
Yeah.
I think at best, maybe they could reduce the scaling as a combo starter. They might revert back the stay on hit change, which I think was fine how it was personally. I think that's a fair change, or it functioning the way it does. So even if it was worse, I'd probably still use it.
Yeah,
That's just how good it is, really.
Yeah, a tracking projector. Well, a tracking thing that puts them into block stun if you just like hit it and able to combo off of. Oh, I mean, like the 1.0 one's a bit different. Like the 1.0 one was that the butterfly would track you and you could pop it multiple times. It wouldn't cause the cripple. It would
That was great.
like, cause a hit. Like a lot of people like that and prefer it to the current iteration, even though the current iteration is obviously stronger. So they might do that. It'd be an interesting change as opposed to just like making it like worse overall, but doing the same sort of function.
I can see it like disappearing like earlier, or just the
bonsai's
launcher.
right, actually. Yeah, the multiple pop was the beta version as opposed to 1.0, which was like 1 hit as opposed to the 3 hits. But yeah, what were you saying, Socky? Sorry.
Yeah, like I said, I can see them having it so that it maybe disappears earlier. And I think it's kind of funny how, like, you can think about like Vayne U-Shield, for example, that stays out for like a frame before deciding to leave this plane of existence, compared to like EU Butterfly or something akin that stays out for quite some time. I feel like if you're backdashing Pilgrim Missiles, if you're backdashing like 5 times in a row versus you Butterfly, shouldn't be able to follow you all the way and still be like able to, because like I think it's pretty much unavoidable in terms of like running away from it. It's just it's like you can go from one corner to the another and the you Butterfly is still going to be there.
Yeah, there's a lot of different changes they can make to it, all having like different impacts on their own. Like they could make the hitbox last for a short period of time, so it's more dodgeable. It could be smaller, so you could roll it, etc., etc.
Yep. But yeah,
that's the future of zoning. Anyway, how well I grapple him at Vasaraga?
I was actually wondering how Vasaraga, because like Vasaraga was obviously before like I feel like a pretty comfy, semi-comfy against like if you're a zoner. Now that
I heard it, but it was definitely a winning matchup.
Yeah. So how do you both feel about that?
There's an extra question.
I
haven't played it enough to be able to say. I feel like it's probably still Matera favored, but that's based off what I know about the character rather than actually playing it.
It's our favor still for sure, but armor not going away on hit immediately poses a bigger problem when she's close to the corner. They can take advantage of. I think that change is very significant for Voss in the Matera matchup, especially.
Yeah.
Not enough to tip the scales too much, of course, now that Tackle has more pushback, but it definitely forces her to make more uncomfortable decisions as far as guessing goes versus armor.
That's definitely true. I don't know, from a Eustace point of view, is there anything you want to add, Mirri, for that?
I haven't really played the matchup at all. But like just looking at the changes, or like spitballing out of, just thinking about it, I don't think like the zoning might get worse, but the thing is Vasaraga usually had like a lot of trouble with Eustace's pressure, and that hasn't changed. I think it even got worse now that 5U doesn't reach as far. So I think like the matchup is still fine. So yeah, you need to like zone less and go in more, which is fine since Eustace is pretty good at that as well.
So yeah, don't advocate for zoners to be nerfed too hard, or else you won't have anyone to deal with this Vasaraga menace.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, how do you guys feel about? Do you think? Are you expecting people to, like, let's assume the meta stays like this, like at least to a degree. Are you expecting people to slow, like people who haven't played zoners or like who are not playing zoners at the moment, to like steadily like pick up maybe like a zoner? I don't know how you feel about a zoner as a sub, how doable that is, or like how much that makes sense against certain characters. Say if Vasaraga, I mean, as good as he is right now, if he becomes like even more common in bracket, can you see something like that happen over time?
I think if you don't like zoning in general, I don't think you're even gonna try to pick up a sub zoner. Like I think you need to like zoning at least somewhat.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything like it's rising, right? Like the characters aren't like massively complicated in order to pick them up. Like you can get them to a decent level pretty quickly. Whether you can get to the same level as your main is a different matter, and it might take slightly longer than, or a bit longer than like other characters who are more similar to like Shota or Rushtown or whatever it is that they're playing. But I definitely think it's possible to have them as a sub, and can even be like a positive as a sub if like Vasaraga is as good as people are making him out to be at the moment. Especially with like Vasaraga, you can play like the character very. You can play Matera kind of like somewhat one-dimensionally in that matchup. Like, you're pretty restrictive in terms of what you're doing. So it might be more viable as a sub in that matchup than other ones, for example. But, I don't know, it's just like... Do what you like, play what you like.
Well, it's like we've already seen a lot of people obviously pick up Beatrix, or like people consider picking up...
I think it's harder than those characters, definitely. And... you might get frustrated with some of the like lack of defensive ability or the ability to play how you normally do, but I don't think there's anything particularly about zoners, like there isn't some sort of like secret sauce that makes you a good zoner player or whatever. But you don't see it very often, so maybe there is. It's only like Beep or someone's like, oh, I'm gonna actually play like Matera as a sub in tournament, and he's obviously already playing a zoner with Fairy to begin with.
Yeah. I don't think that counts, I'm sorry.
Yeah. How do you feel?
Yeah, I gotta...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I was just about to address you. Go for it.
No, yeah. I think you're right on the money. With the Beep Ball, it's different since he already plays a zoner. But if you're coming from like a different playstyle into a zoner just for one matchup, I don't think you'll see too much of that. It's not that they're hard, it's that the amount of like matchup knowledge you need to like play the matchup properly as that zoner is something that even people who play the character struggle with, you know? So playing them as a sub isn't super valuable unless you're really committed to investing in that kind of learning curve.
Yeah, they're definitely better as like a long-term project than a short-term fix. But it's a fun long-term project, so go ahead with it.
Yeah. I do think I've seen a couple people like play the zoners at least on the side, but I'm not expecting it. I'm personally not expecting anybody to really make the switch. But I might be pessimistic. But yeah. I think that covers most of the topic, so...
Yeah, we asked about like 30 minutes ago if anyone's got any last thoughts, so I think at this point we're good to wrap up.
The thoughts have escaped. I'm not picking up Matera, no.
Socky, pick up Matera, would be funny. You played it once in a week, let's go for it.
It was awful.
Come on, man. But anyway, has anyone got any last thoughts before like I thank everyone and like boot everyone off to someone else?
Any final thoughts?
Doesn't sound like it.
I think that about covers it. Thanks for having us on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. Monarch had to get on at like for 9 o'clock for this. As he said earlier, he does like tend to play like ranked at like 7 a.m, so probably not as much of an effort for him as it is for a lot of other people in the community, but appreciate it all the same. Thank you very much.
While we're on the topic, actually let me ask what your next event is going to be, because I know you weren't at sea. I was wondering if you were going, but where do we see you next? The Matera, the strong Matera in action.
Yeah, so I know that NA qualifier events are a little limited so far this year. Evo was for sure a priority. I gotta lock that in. I'm debating between Boston Beach episode. I'm probably gonna go there, honestly, in July before Evo, just for the practice. So those two, most likely.
Yeah. Boston Beach will be July 19th, so like relatively soon. And then Evo August 1st, obviously. I mean, like
Yeah.
we got like 3 events before that one, so we've got a bit of a gap actually. We've got the death
Yeah, the
match
events-
coming up now.
The events are wrapping up. As for Mirri, I do know obviously where I had some, but you're not the world warrior traveling zoner. But are you planning to go to any events this season?
I mean, I would like to go to more events, but I'm poor as hell. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
But I don't have
Price
any
lost
concrete.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
50 quid more to the pot or whatever.
I don't have any like concrete plans, but I would like to go somewhere. Yeah.
Any like tournament in particular you would be interested in?
I mean, considering I don't have an opportunity to travel often, like if I'd have to choose, I would choose one of the platinum events. Just for the chance.
Yeah.
Like Neo
I feel like
News or
you would-
something.
I would go to a Mickey Mouse event.
Versus fighting, let's go.
I mean, we do have two. Like we have UFA and Evo. Like
Yeah.
the Evo is probably the bigger one, but the Evo is also more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That would be cool though. I feel like
We get Mirri's
you can-
an event, that'd be cool.
you can talk as much as you want about zoners, but seeing them in action is a different story, especially at an offline event too. I think it's pretty hype, if
Yeah.
I do say so myself.
It is cool when you get the best players in the region to these big events, and obviously with something like Evo, where like there might be some people from other regions as well. That's very exciting as well. So seeing Mirri against like various people who don't usually play, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I do think that like you kind of have to like there's only so much you can talk about the meta and characters and all that jazz before you have to like put your thoughts or put your theories to the test in tournaments, right? Especially ones that aren't just like it's like me and the 5 guys I fight all the other time, right? But like actually at an offline event, decently sized brackets and your good matchups and your bad matchups and so on and so forth, right? So
Yeah. Mirri's also 100% at winning offline events, so there's that as well in Rising.
True.
The greatest to ever do it, the European Gamera, question mark, etc, etc. But yeah,
Maybe somebody-
go for it.
maybe somebody should sponsor him to go to Evo Neeks. Hint, hint. Any of rich viewers consider sponsoring.
We're European, man. We got
players.
money. There's no money here. But yeah, thanks for showing up as well, Mirri. Appreciate your time on the podcast. You did yap a bit
Yeah.
more than you thought you would, so I appreciate that.
I put an effort.
I appreciate
If you
it.
guys
Thank
wanna, if either of you guys wanna chill your Twitters, your streams,
Hell
Where
no!
people
Don't
can
don't
find
watch my
you.
stream. Go watch Monarch's Twitter or his stream if he streams.
Yeah, I should stream more ranked grinding among other sets. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter here. I post funny clips sometimes.
Funny clips, hot takes, etc, etc.
hot takes about
Yeah.
zoning.
Yeah,
Okay.
those in abundance.
When's the next Metera tier list? Metera matchup chart?
I should update that honestly. Soon, TM.
While the topic's still hot.
I think the
Yeah,
previous
that's my
one's still pretty
season.
accurate, to be fair.
That's true. It doesn't require
Okay.
major changes.
Yeah, just repost the old one.
They won't notice.
Awesome. So yeah, speaking of Matera, I'll probably send you over to new Matera main over on twitch.tv/bpaul. He
Yo.
seems to be streaming right now. Been up for 15 minutes, so say hello there. Thanks to everyone who followed. Thanks to everyone who subscribed. Thanks. I'm still shocked people subscribe here because I don't stream hardly other than this and like the occasional thing. But yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Got any feedback? Let me know. Appreciate it. anything. I especially appreciate when you tell me when the volume is up or down, because that's happened enough times.
Your feedback. I think you should replace the British guy.
Finally, somebody says it.
Come on, man. Come on. It can't be that bad.
But yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what we're doing in terms of like the next episode or something like that. Like this one's been long going. We were planning to do it for like a few months now. We finally got around to it.
Yeah, I know people are happy with it too. Like I know, as it is with any Mid-Terra zoner feedback, if people don't get the one counterplay that they're looking for, might be disappointing. But you know, hopefully you took something out of the episode, and if not, you know,
you can always launch training mode.
You can always DM Dudeakoff and ask him for help.
You can always send me mean messages and then I block you. You know, it's fine. Go for it.
What you can also do is you can go to Mirri's Twitch chat and you can type in what is it? Coaching. Exclamation mark coaching, and then it will
I love advice.
bring you to his. Yep, that will help you for sure. So keep grinding, gamers.
Yeah. Next Sockycast will be for a while because there's a number of events that either or both me and Socky are going to, but we'll be back at some point. Maybe another like event recap, maybe like one of the bigger events like an Evo, Nice, or there might be something before then. We'll talk about it, we'll let people know. So yeah, gonna send you over to Beepo now. Again, thanks for joining. I have to wait 10 seconds until I can actually raid, and I haven't got much else to say. Socky, you got anything else to add before I click the button?
I get to say goodbye. Tune in to Hessen Crash this weekend. I'm gonna be there. Dudeakoff's gonna be there. Bonsai might win the event and then make us all look like fools when we can't deal with zoning.
Speaking of Matera, there's me, there's Bonsai, there's Desily.
Yo, top 3 only Materas. Let's go, finally.
I top shooters there as well, so there's Eustace.
Yo, let's go.
Holy shit. Is he somebody rigged the bracket?
Yeah, he can beat skill for a third time. That'll be fun. Anyway, see you all soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.